So we've covered a lot in the Google Docs for Social Learning workshop, but this last tool that you can use in your class is my favorite because it feels a little bit like magic. It's basically a personal assistant for you and for your students to help facilitate the sharing and management of all of the documents that you decide to use with your students. The Google Docs for Social Learning resource guide is a document that I want to share with all of you. So it's a perfect opportunity to demonstrate using Doctopus to share a document and create individual copies of that document, which is my favorite part, with the class. So let's go. The first thing to do is to open up a new Google Sheet and also open up the document that you want to share. Next step is to go to Add-ons, open up Doctopus, and select Launch. At a few points, I'm going to skip past the loading step that Doctopus goes through because it can take a few seconds or a few minutes, and there's no need for you to sit and watch that. Next, we're going to move over to the upper right corner of the screen where Doctopus lets you either build a new roster or select a roster that you've already built. I'm going to go down here to the bottom and select Build a New Roster. This roster is most likely going to be for the specific class who's receiving your document. There are several choices for the method to build the roster. I'm going to select On This Sheet because I'm going to copy in the information of the people who are receiving this document. And now we click Create Roster. It asks for first name, last name, and email. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to throw in the emails. Use the name Attendee Workshop for everybody instead of putting in your first and last names. Oops. To do that over again. Okay, so now I have first name, last name, and email. When I have that information loaded, you'd have this for the first name, last name, and email of your students. You click refresh. Remember, we already went over how to collect the necessary information from your students in the very beginning of the workshop, and that was using the Google form that feeds into a Google Sheet. So you could just start with that Google Sheet that collected all of your students' information and do this exact same process. So I'm going to click refresh to tell Doctopus that I've created the class. Oh, this is a perfect time to show a common mistake. I haven't named the spreadsheet yet, so I need to give it a name. And here's something I want to emphasize. The spreadsheet should be named with the title of the document that the students are receiving. So in this case, that's Google Docs for Social Learning Resource Guide. So if you just name this spreadsheet for period 1, all of your students are going to receive a document that's called Spreadsheet for Period 1. And we know how sometimes it can be hard to reel back in the class when there's confusion like that. Okay, so I'm going to set the roster name and say GDocs Workshop. And then I'll do for this case, I'm not going to create class folders, but I'll show you what those look like. If you were to select create class folders, each of your classes, like here's one 9 academic period 8, 9 academic period 4, they get their own folder. And then within that folder, you have a class view folder for documents you want all the students to view, class edit folder for all the documents you want the students to edit, a teacher folder which contains all of the assignments that you've given the class, and student folders. Each of these folders is shared with just the student and me. For this case, we don't need that though, so I'm going to go to Save Roster and Continue. We get to decide on the sharing arrangement. There are 4. You can either have one document for the whole class, groups, if you're having students work together on the same document, individual documents that are actually all different for differentiated instruction, and individual documents where everybody is receiving the same document. That's our case. So I'll select individual, all the same. So now Doctopus is going to send one copy of this document to each of the people in the class roster. Whole class access level. Do I want students to be able to access each other's work? No, so I select no access. The students, do I want them to be able to edit the document? Well, for you, I'd like you to be able to maybe add some notes or add in your own resources to this document later. So I'm going to click Allow Edit. Also, again, because this is a document that I'm sharing with you as part of this workshop, I'm going to deselect this. I think you should be able to change the sharing permissions and share this with somebody. We're not going to deliver this to the student folders because we have not created student folders for this case. Let's say I was running this workshop or I was running my class with another teacher. Right here, I enter that teacher's email address and then they will be able to manage the student work along with me. Okay, that's basically the decision-heavy part of using Doctopus. It seems like a lot, but after I use it once or twice, I just went through, quickly selected all of the options and would go on. So now we go to Save and Continue. Okay, now it's going to ask me basically, where is the assignment? Where is the document that you want to share with students? I've created, for ease of use, one folder called Doctopus, and anytime I'm going to share something with my students, that goes in there. So here's all of the assignments I've shared with students there. So because of that, I put this document into my Doctopus folder. So I'll choose that folder. So I'm going to go to My Drive, and from there I can go to Doctopus and select. Now it's going to bring up all of the documents that are held within that Doctopus folder. So I'm going to look for this document, Google Docs for Social Learning Resource Guide. Right there at the top. Again, I go to Save and Continue. As the teacher, I'm going to have one folder where all of these documents are held. So I can choose to create a new folder that will be named GDocs Workshop, and within that folder all of the copies of this document will be held, or I can choose an existing folder that I have. For this case, I'll create a new folder. So I'm going to type a personalized message there. Hi, here is your copy of the Google Docs for Social Learning Resource Guide. I'm sending you this message using Doctopus, one of the tools we'll learn about tonight. So you can see I could include your first name, your last name, your email. See you tonight. Gerard Dawson. So then I do a last check of my document, make sure it has everything I want to be in there. It does. So now I'll press Save and continue. And now you see Doctopus has done some work. Now I'll get a link to all of the shared documents. If the students edit the document, I'll know when it was last edited, and then I can assign a grade and written feedback, which can also be distributed through email. So as a bonus video, after the workshop, I'll record a little video showing how to do that portion, so I can send each of you a note. Like I said, that will be a bonus that happens after the workshop. So now basically this would be like we're standing at the copy machine, ready to hit start on the copier. So I'm going to do run copy and share. Okay, now you'll see 19 copies of the same assignment. So again, here's the steps that we went over. 1, create the document that you'd like to share to students. For us, that was the resource guide. 2, collect students' first name, last name, and email address. We went over that in the beginning of the workshop. You can do that with a Google form. Next, we open up Doctopus, set up our rosters, select the document, and then last hit run copy and share, which is like that personal assistant making a copy and delivering it to each of your students. Hopefully you think that's as cool as I think it is. I find it to be almost magical in the amount of time it saves me and the convenience it provides. So that was using Doctopus to copy, share, and organize student work.